one of the worst things I see in the world today, let's say, for example, let's say you're my sister or my daughter or something, and every time we meet, I talk about all the things that you did wrong in the past. You wet yourself and we had to take clothes to school. You fell down and skint your knee. You stole a penny from somebody. And every time we meet, I rehearse and recall your history of misery. Now, what that does, it creates a mental and emotional program and a value system that is not very, very positive. Because if I keep recalling, say, for example, you're a Black person or I'm a Black person, and Black history is go back and remember all the miserable things that happened to us, all the bad things that happened to us, and all the injustices. You wet yourself and your dad had to bring underwear to school. And you stole
the most embarrassing moments in the world.
And so if we recall the miserable histories, what does that value give to you and your children if we talk about these things? It creates a victimization of the self.
Yeah.
It's glorifying misery. That, and so history is only as good as a storyteller, but your history does project into your future as you recall it, replay it, imagine it, and it is forecasted. So the best things I would say is remember when you made straight A's, or when you made a beautiful cake, or whenever you won this or you did that. And that will empower you to be a greater person. But if we keep looking at the miserable things that happen to you and us, of course, you don't hear much about slavery in America when the first slaves were the white Irish people, and how they were, and they even had signs, no Irish people allowed, or the Polish people in America. Of course, we don't hear that much because, again, if you do that, it kind of beats people down. It keeps people small. So the worst thing for us to do is recall the miserable past, replay the past. When I was working did seminar in Poland, one of the girls, of course, in Poland, what they did to the kids in school, they'd take them to Auschwitz. And that's back when they had the bones and pieces and stuff right there. And they would take these school kids to see this. And this girl said, I just felt so guilty to be alive. Now, let me ask you that. Is that a great value to grow up having? And the answer is no. Definitely not.
Right.
How would you, some of you guys who may be watching this, how many of you go visit family and your mom and your dad, they all tell you about bad things that happened to you as you're growing up? It just really encouraged you to be positive. Not. So again, these are some of the worst things about our history is that we build, and granted, if you like being miserable, and depression is a great badge of honor and connection to the emotional family, good for you. But I will tell you this, death awaits you, but it'll be miserable before you get there.
Okay. This is fascinating because, I went through a divorce and there was a lot of physical, sexual, mental abuse and cheating and everything, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I would go visit my mom on holidays and stuff. And this was back when my kids were here. And I would get oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, this is so terrible. Well, then when I changed I updated some memories and they just updated really well and solidified for me and reconsolidated. And I went there and my mom started in, to her, this was our way of connecting and bonding and like, oh, I feel sorry for you. Mm-hmm. And this was seriously the relationship that brings people together sometimes. And for us, it was. And so she started that, oh, it's Thanksgiving and he didn't even let you have the kids after everything he's done to you. I'm so sorry. And I just felt this like armor. It felt like, and I was like, you know what? I'm just like, my mind immediately shifted to what I was thankful for.
Right.
And it was so easy to make that shift instead of like make her feel bad or fight with her or anything. It was just a very simple, like, I'm so grateful that we're here though. Like, this is going to be such a nice time for just us to be together. And my mindset of not needing to have that pity or whatever place that parents think we give our kids when we feel sorry for them because of the things that have happened to them, it's very disempowering. And that was a clear picture for me, being from the victim to the person that is like, hey, I'm enjoying life. There's nothing to feel sorry about.
Exactly. Yeah. Again,
And
and there's another thing that I see, because I've been working with a young kid, 14 years old, and he's had some physical problems, illnesses and stuff. And the worst thing is say for example, Tammy, I mean, you have a few kids, 6 kids, right? Five kids. Right? I mean, if you have 5 kids, so here it is, you're watching TV and a kid was kidnapped. Well, this mother starts worrying that her kids will be kidnapped. Now, the rarity of a child being kidnapped is super rare. Not that it doesn't happen, it does, but it does make big news. And so you're a mother so horrified and scared, traumatized, worrying that somebody's going to steal her kids, you know? And then, of course, this emotional feeling is also pressed upon these children of being scared of the world. And so, but yet, if I know those kids, there's no one's going to take those kids. They would return them quickly, you know. But you know, the point is that the mother who had a horrible childbirth with this child, the child may have, some kind of a illness or something, but the mother won't let go of that illness. And so as she treats this child, treats it as if it's always sick, act like it's always sick, and that child grows up to always be sick. And I don't know, there was an experiment or experience where a teacher had she got all these kids that were the slow learners, and of course she didn't know they were slow learners, and she looked at all the numbers by their names and said, well, all these kids got high IQs, not realizing that these numbers were their locker numbers, right? So she treated these kids like they're super smart and super intelligent, and they superseded the knowledge base and the skill set than the other kids because of the teacher's attitude and belief towards the kids.
Right.
And so it's imperative to understand the presumed belief and attitude we have about ourself, about our past, about our future, about our children, about relationships taint our experiences in front of us. So, and for me, working with trauma now, and I created Taptics FasterEFT. I've worked many years helping people change traumas, addictions, fears, phobias of all sorts, and illnesses. Working in volunteering and drug rehabs for 9 years. And I worked with the worst, severest cases you could ever imagine. And, where people were witnessing death or nearly killed or thought to be killed, raped, murdered, all kinds of horrible traumas, people coming from Afghanistan, and they become addicted trying to escape their emotions. And so, when they come in, of course, this system that I train is a powerful system, but it's so outside of the box of the modern thinking. Being able to change a trauma in 10 minutes. This guy, he said, well, his name is Joshua. He was in the military in Afghanistan. He's seen people killed, and all kind killed people. And he's a good guy, but it just tormented him. And he came in, he said, man, I've never talked about these things. It's just too hard. Now, of course, here it is, this guy waking up 6 times a night, can't sleep at night, trembling, smoking. And so I said, why don't we do this? Why don't you just pick a memory, and you don't have to tell me anything about it. I will help you adjust it to where you'll be okay with it. So within 5 or 10 minutes, he says, well, it didn't bother me. I said, can you talk about it? I said, sure. So he tells me the whole story. He says, I can't believe I feel nothing now. It was like, it was real,
Yes.
And then I said, look, we did this memory without sharing. So what I do is like math. If you do this, you get that. It's not mystical. It's not magical. It's not, you don't need God. You don't need Jesus. You don't need anything but mental clarity, understanding on how to do this. And so now, granted, if you're spiritual, it's definitely spiritual. If you're not spiritual, it's definitely mechanical. It works.
Right.
And
It works
so
within the system of your learning and understanding.
it works within the system of the brain.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, logically, everybody knows. I mean, you and I know, and everybody's listening. The cause of our problems is memories and our unpleasant experiences.
Yeah. And people can say that directly. If you're like, how come this bothers you? They'll be like, well, when I was a kid, this happened. Yeah. And we know that link, but we don't really see how much it impacts.
Yeah. And another thing with these memories, adjusting memories, one of the biggest things I hear is say, well, if I get rid of this memory, it'll make me weak. It'll make it happen to me again. I said,
Yes.
that's true. It's not true. If you have traumas inside your head and unpleasant experiences, it's in your head. It is a how to experience the world. It helps us pick in the world what fits already inside of our head. So if you have a trauma and you don't let it go, it's guaranteed you're going to experience that trauma in a different way, in a different style. Either you'll do the trauma or be the trauma or experience the trauma. Right. So the insanity is keeping it.